Hey everybody, it's Sean. I wanted to go over the texts for Writing the Good Life and answer the question, what are the best books to read that are helpful in thinking about both writing and living? An extension of this question, how does composition, the practice of putting things together in order, arranging, outlining, shaping, brainstorming, collecting, drafting, revising, peer reviewing, shipping, connect to existentialism, who we are, what we can become, questions of how free we are, how we're not free. The first book that I highly recommend is Writing Down the Bones. And before I go into this book just a little bit, I do want to say how one of the biggest keys to reading more, if you're trying to read more, is to be more picky and selective of the books that you end up trying to read. To not feel guilty. If you're not really enjoying a book, you should put it down, just like you don't want to watch an entire Netflix series if you're not into it. So luckily on Amazon, the look inside button, you can get a good taste of these books, and if they speak to you, and if you feel like you really want to read more of them after checking them out, then you can. Natalie Goldberg wrote this book in 1986. It is a classic in both writing instruction and Zen philosophy. She has a wonderful way of writing in short, punchy, concise sentences and gives you a lot of topics for writing practice, talks about stability and trust in the process. Be willing to write junk for 5 years, she says. She also talks about great determination. Great determination doesn't just mean making an effort. It means the whole universe is behind you and with you. The birds, trees, sky, moon, and 10 directions. This is kind of like a natural approach to writing, but also I love this book, and I found a lot in it. So this is the book that I would recommend to kind of get you writing as a practice where you're not really caring what you write and you're showing up to the page as a way to pay attention to your experience. I've talked before about this book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and this actually could be a nice pairing with this book because with Writing Down the Bones, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is really all about the quality of presence that we bring to each moment. So it's kind of about paying attention to the quality of our experience, paying attention to the quality of our minds when we react to our experience. And this book is about using writing as a way to train our attention on our experience itself and to be interested in what comes up. On that note, the next book on our list is Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. It's a 12-step, 12-week course in creative recovery, or to unblock creative people. She says we are all creatives. It's a little more on the flu side. She talks about spirituality of creativity, which is maybe problematic since that could mean a lot of different things. But what I really love about this book is the quotes that she puts in it are amazing and inspiring, and the idea that we can honor our inner child and the play and the fun that our inner child wants to have in a way that also makes us feel more alive. She has good exercises in here and again, she's really big into not really writing well, but writing freely and writing without a sense of judging what we do before we do it. So this book is about writing really and paying attention to our experience. The next book, Designing Your Life, is about the existential question, but not really the philosophy of existentialism. So this is not a Jean-Paul Sartre about the anxiety of being, and this is not a Kierkegaard telling us to take a leap of faith into something we don't believe in. This is more of a, if I am going to need to practically figure out what I'm going to do with my life, I am trying to decide who I am and what I'm becoming, maybe there's a better way to do that than just not knowing what I'm doing. Or maybe not knowing what I'm doing is a kind of strength, and I can use that to, instead of figure out what I should be doing with my life, to figure out what I could be doing with my multiple lives, Or instead of trying to find a good job, trying to find a job that can do something in a longer term plan that has a design that's really built for joy. So I really liked this book and the kind of mindsets and the training that it has, that they encourage. Bill Burnett and Dave Evans are both Stanford design instructors that got into student advising. And so they actually took the principles of customer-centric design. So when I'm making design for somebody, I don't just make a design and then ship it to them. I make a test or a prototype, and then I get their feedback. And then based on that feedback, I redesign the thing, retest, reprototype. I only go into production on this item when I'm positive that it's going to do what I want it to do. And they say that that's how we should make life decisions as well. If we're going to be a skydive instructor, we've got to go on some skydives. And if we don't know if we want to be a high school teacher, the first good step to do that is to get into a high school classroom as a volunteer. And in this way, you don't need to decide. You can begin exploring and experimenting. Interesting, experiment and experience are in Latin actually the same word. So this is about experimenting with our experience to become more of who we are and living a more well-lived, joyful life. Connected to this, once we do that and we start reaching out to other people, it can help, and this is definitely more into the writing style and writing more professionally, to write without bullshit. The tide of bullshit is rising. Just the opening line of this book I remember because it's awesome. And he said so that's a nice book on how to eliminate redundancy, really write for our audience, write in a professional way, write with compassion and courtesy and humor. And the subtitle is Boost Your Career by Saying What You Mean. And so it is about business professionalism, not business per se, but if you're writing for your job or you're writing to promote what you're doing, it's a good one and helpful, fun read. There's a couple of other honorable mentions. I wanted to recommend this one as well. This is William Zinsser's On Writing Well. He just has a marvelous style and really nice little bits of advice. He says, when you find yourself at such an impasse, look at the troublesome element, the sentence. Do I need it at all? Probably you don't. It was trying to do an unnecessary job all along. That's why it was giving you so much grief. Remove it and watch the afflicted sentence spring to life and breathe normally. It's the quickest cure and often the best. Forget the competition and go at your own pace. Your only contest is with yourself. I think he's really warm, and the style in this book is a really great one to imitate to write well. There's a couple of honorable mentions that I wanted to include that didn't make the list. Anne Lamont's Bird by Bird, super classic, beautiful, funny. Her essay, Shitty First Drafts, you can find PDFs of online, basically encouraging people to write shitty first drafts. And her final chapter on generosity and being a writer as being something, a generous act, is just gorgeous. And then another one, if you like The Artist's Way, like I ended up really liking it, she wrote another one called The Right to Write. And I wanted to end with this one because I'll just say on the back, she says, we should write because it's human nature to write. Writing claims our world. It makes it directly and specifically our own. We should write because writing brings clarity and passion to the act of living. Writing is sensual, experiential, grounding. We should write because writing is good for the soul. We should write because writing yields us a body of work, a felt path through the world we live in. We should write above all because we are writers, whether we call ourselves that or not. I want to end with this just to really restate the idea. What we're doing in writing The Good Life, the dominant question is not how can we get published or how can I become a better writer or a better poet. That might be part of it. The real question is how can my instruction in writing well, or my curiosity about writing well, connect with living well? So when we talk about that we are all writers, or Natalie Goldberg's subtitle is Freeing the Writer Within, it's just not about moving from our day job as an office clerk and all of a sudden becoming a playwright. It's more about using, at least as far as I read it and my existential interpretation, it's more about showing up to that office clerk job with more authenticity and creativity, to see our way around our experience, or to reframe it in a significant way where we are the ones, we have the freedom to see, act, do, compose, edit our lives, right? Not just our writing. So I'm going to be continually diving into these books. The first stop where we're going to go in the next 2 episodes is looking at writing down the bones, particularly how writing is an act of presence. Thank you very much. As they say, that's that. They don't say anything. See you next time.